factors that led to the rise of Philippine nationalism. So the first factor is the rise of liberal ideas. Paano ba nakapasok yung liberal ideas sa Pilipinas before? Okay, so the liberal ideas came to the Philippines through the continuous contact of the Filipino illustrators with the West. Remember na may mga Pilipino noon na nakapag-aral sa Europa at kung ano yung mga natutunan nila doon, na idala nila dito sa Pilipinas nung sila ay nakauwi. And kung i-compare natin yung mga countries sa Europe dito sa Pilipinas, mas liberal yung policy nila ron or yung pag-iisip ng mga tao doon, unlike here in the Philippines na limitado dahil nga sakop tayo ng mga Espanyol. So noong 1700, naranasan ng Europe na magkaroon ng iba't ibang revolution when it comes to religion and in government. So in the aspect of religion, nakilala si Martin Luther. Sino ba si Martin Luther? So he is a German clergy na kinwestiyon niya yung iba't ibang policies ng church na sa tingin niya ay hindi naman tumutugma dun sa tinuturo ng Biblia, particularly dun sa giving of indulgence. Ano ba tong indulgence or yung indulhensya? Ito yung mga binabayaran ng mga tao sa simbahan para daw pag namatay sila, yung kaluluwa nila ay mapunta sa langit, na kinwestiyon ni Martin Luther. Sabi niya, hindi naman align or hindi naman tumutugma dun sa tinuturo ng Biblia. So nagkaroon ngayon ng issue sa pagitan ni Martin Luther at saka mga kasama niya, and of course dun sa Catholic Church. So the move of Martin Luther shaken the absolute power of the Catholic Church. Gambala ang church dun sa ginawa ni Martin Luther. Kaya nagkaroon ng revolution when it comes to the aspect of religion. Now let's proceed to the aspect of government naman. Ito namang sa government na sa may France. Okay, so the French people, nagkaroon sila ng revolution against the monarchy of King Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette. Okay, so ano bang nangyari? Bakit ba nagkaroon ng revolution sa France? Ito kasing dalawang ito, itong mag-asawa na si King Louis XVI and si Marie Antoinette, they impose excessive taxes to the people, and then yung taxes na nakokolekta nila or yung pera, binibili nila ng mga luho nila, okay? So they use it for their luxury and did not implement projects for the welfare of the people. They decided to have their own revolution and to overthrow the monarch. So dito na nagkaroon ng idea yung iba't ibang tao na, you know, they had the power to break the contract to their government kapag hindi nila nagugustuhan, especially kapag inaabuso na yung mga rights nila. And of course, they can question and challenge the absolute power of the government. Now let's proceed to the second factor that led to the rise of Philippine nationalism. We have the development in international trading. The opening of Suez Canal gave way to the easy transportation from Europe going to Asia. Take note, noong 19th century, nagbukas ang Suez Canal. Itong Suez Canal na to ay ruta siya na papunta sa Europe to Asia or Asia papunta rin Europe. And then, instead of crossing the Atlantic, yung mga barko, they would pass the Suez Canal and this shortened the time of travel. So, napaiksi yung oras ng pagbabiyahe at the same time, yung ruta, mas napaiksi siya. Okay? Noong 1834, ang Port of Manila ay nagbukas sa international trade, and this brought tremendous development in the economy of the Philippines. Of course, nung nagkaroon na ng kalakalan at nakisali ang Pilipinas sa kalakalan, nagkaroon ng development sa ating ekonomiya, especially sa mga ngalakal, sa mga Pilipinong mga ngalakal. And then, the hacienderos and the inquilinos were able to participate in the trading of tobacco, rice, sugar, abaca, and other Filipino goods. So, anong naging effect nito? Of course, nagkaroon sila ng big profit. And then, this big profit gave them opportunity to send their children in Europe para mag-aral. At yung iba pa nga, mas pinipili na lang nilang mag-settle sa Europe to avoid the restrictions set by the Spaniards. As I mentioned earlier, na kung ikukumpara natin mga countries sa Europe, sa Pilipinas, mas liberal doon or mas open-minded sila and walang restriction. And then, aside from the Filipinos, of course, the Chinese in the Philippines also gained wealth because of the international trade. And, di ba pagka sinabi natin Chinese sa Pilipinas, number one na papasok sa isip natin ay yung Binondo, okay? So, their community in Binondo gained influence because of their participation in trading and the wealth that they have. Okay, now let's proceed to the third factor, the political instability in Spain. So like the other government, the absolute power of the Spanish monarch was threatened by liberalism. So kung ano yung nangyari dun sa France, Ganun din yung nangyari sa Spain, okay? So, kinwestiyon ng mga Spanish people yung kanilang government. Kumbaga sa Spain kasi nahati yung population nila when it comes to type of government na gusto nila. So yung iba, mas prefer nilang magkaroon ng liberal government while the others preferred absolutism. So ang nangyari sa Spain noon ay nagkaroon ng continuous changes in the monarchy of Spain. So pabago-bago sila ng namumuno. During the Napoleonic Wars, the Spanish monarchy had a lot of expenses. So itong Napoleonic Wars na to, it's a war na nangyari sa Spain. So syempre kapag may war, expected na maraming masisira, maraming mawawala, and then yung funds ng government mauubos din. So anong ginawa nila para makabangon sila after ng war? They impose additional tax to the people. Syempre nagkaroon na ng problema sa kanilang ekonomiya. So ito yung naging dahilan kung bakit yung mga tao ay gusto nila magkaroon ng reforma sa government. So, nagkaroon ng Cadiz Constitution of 1812. It mandated the transformation of the Spanish government. So, from monarchy to the constitutional monarchy. Okay? So, maraming changes na nangyari sa kanilang constitution before. And the changes made by the adaptation of the new constitution brought confusion to the Spanish people. Yung majority ng population sa Spain, mas gusto nila yung old system of government because their perspective in the new system was just a new version of the absolutism government of France. The continuous change of the government from absolute to liberal government and from liberal to absolute government brought instability, not only in the Spanish government, but also to the Spanish colonial government in the Philippines. So, dahil nga sakop tayo ng Spain at mismong sa country nila is hindi naman stable yung kanilang government, nadamay pati mga colony ng Spain. Okay, now let's move on to another factor that led to the rise of Philippine nationalism. We have the administration of Carlos Maria de la Torre. Okay, so si Governor General Carlos Maria de la Torre ay isa siyang liberal leader na na-assign sa Philippines as the Governor General in 1868. Sa lahat ng mga naging Governor General sa Pilipinas way back then, si Carlos Maria de la Torre ang pinakamahal ng mga Pilipino dahil siya ay isang liberal. When we say liberal kasi, open-minded siya, at the same time, hindi siya stricto. Okay? So, ano ba yung mga ginawa ni Carlos Maria de la Torre? First, he opened Malacanang to the Filipinos and solicited suggestions from the natives about the administration of the country. So, imagine that, head siya yung pinakamataas na pinuno sa Pilipinas noon, and then, hinihingan niya ng suggestion yung mga natives or yung mga Pilipino about the administration sa Pilipinas, kung paano pamumunuan, kung ano yung mga gusto ng mga Pilipino. So in short, nakikinig siya dun sa mga constituents niya. Okay? Governor General Carlos Maria de la Torre also abolished the espionage and implemented freedom of speech. So ano ba tong espionage? Ito yung paggamit ng government ng spy or ng espiya as their strategy sa kanilang mga kalaban. Okay? So, he also implemented freedom of speech. Nakakatuwa pa kay Governor de la Torre, instead na mag-declare siya ng war against sa mga rebelde, kinakausap niya, nakikipag-meet siya, and then ini-encourage niya na suportahan sila dun sa Spanish government or to encourage them to support the Spanish government, I should say. Okay? So, his liberal ideas made him the champion for the Filipinos, but of course, kung mahal siya ng mga Pilipino, kabaliktaran naman nung nangyari din sa mga Espanyol at sa mga pari na galit sa kanya. Okay? So, after 2 years, he was replaced by Governor General Rafael Izquierdo, who imposed repressive policies towards the natives. So, pinalitan na si Carlos Maria de la Torre, ang pumalit sa kanya si Rafael Izquierdo na kinamumuhian naman ng mga Pilipino. Take note na si Governor General Rafael Izquierdo ang nagpapatay dun sa 3 paring Gomburza. So, the administration of Carlos Maria de la Torre in the country gave ideas to the Filipinos na okay lang or it was possible for the government to adopt the liberal ideas. Now, let's proceed to the 5th factor, the issue of secularization. Okay, so dun sa previous lesson natin na Cavite Mutiny, na-mention ko ang issue of secularization. Ano bang meron dito sa secularization na to? Okay, take note na nabanggit ko before na may 2 congregation ang pari or ang church, regular priest and the secular priest. Ang mga regular priest, ito yung mga pari na Espanyol. Okay, mga Spanish priest to. Mga secular priest naman, ito yung mga paring Filipino or Filipino priests. So the liberal administration in Spain ordered the closure of all churches in Spain, so the friars traveled to the Philippines. As I mentioned kanina, na dahil dun sa policy na ginawa ng Spanish government, which pinasara nila lahat ng simbahan sa Spain, yung mga Spanish priests pumunta sa Pilipinas. Ang problema, saan sila dadalhin or saang simbahan sila i-assign. Tinanggal nila yung mga secular priests or yung mga paring Pilipino dun sa simbahan mismo dito sa Pilipinas, and then sila yung pumalit. And dahil dito, nagkaroon ng secularization movement. And then, what's the objective of this secularization? Its objective is to fight for the rights of the secular priests, and it was headed by Father Pedro Pelaez and Father Mariano Gomez. Kaya lang, namatay si Padre Pelaez dahil sa lindol na nangyari sa Manila. So, ang pumalit sa kanya ay si Father Jose Burgos. So now, let's proceed to the next factor, the execution of Gomburza. Paano ba pumasok yung Gomburza para mapaigting pa yung pagiging nationalismo ng mga Pilipino? Okay, so in 1861, Archbishop Gregorio Meliton Martinez issued a decree which removed the parishes of the secular priests from them and transferred it under the control of the Spanish priests. The secular priests fought for their rights and sought the assistance of Marshal Francisco Serrano. Sino tong si Marshal Francisco Serrano? He was the regent of Spain during those times. However, the supremacy of the regular priests was dominant. So, and even the Spanish colonial government in the Philippines could not contradict their decisions. Okay, now let's try to discuss the important details about the three priests or the three martyred priests, Father Gomez, Burgos, and Zamora. So let's begin with Father Gomez. Father Mariano Gomez was known for his leadership in Bacoor, Cavite, not only in the spiritual development of the parishioners but also in economics. Ano ba yung pag-uugali ni Father Mariano Gomez? So, pinapahiraman niya ng pera yung mga parishioners without interest, okay? And then, hindi lang siya kilala sa Bacoor, Cavite, but also kilala din siya sa Batangas because when they needed to raise funds for the representative of the secular priest to Vatican, etong si Father Gomez ay isa dun sa mga nagsolicit ng pondo, okay? Okay, now let's move on naman kay Father Burgos. Father Jose Burgos was the most promising among the three priests. Why? Because through his writings, he defended the secular priests against the Spanish priests who insisted that the Filipino priests were not deserving to have their own parish. So itong si Father Jose Burgos ang pumalit kay Father Pedro Pelaez bilang kura paroko ng Manila. And yung mga sinulat niyang essay ang mas nagpagalit pa dun sa mga Spanish priests. Okay? And lastly, let's proceed to Father Zamora. Father Jacinto Zamora was the parish priest in Marikina. He was the classmate of Jose Burgos and also part of the secularization movement. In January 1872, the workers in Cavite Arsenal had the rebellion against the additional deductions in their salary and the loss of exemption in tribute. Okay, so dun sa Cavite Mutiny, nangyari to sa may Cavite Arsenal. Itong Arsenal, na-mention ko sa previous lesson, na ang Arsenal, ito yung pagawaan ng mga armas, ng mga warship, or anything na ginagamit kapag may digmaan. Okay? So, nagka-problema dahil itong mga manggagawa sa Cavite Mutiny at tinanggalan sila ng mga karapatan. Una, yung exemption nila sa polo e-servicio or yung sa pilitang pagtatrabaho. Pangalawa, yung tinaasan yung kanilang buwis. Paano papasok yung tatlong paring ito? Okay? So, naakusahan sila na sila daw yung leader nung Cavite Mutiny. Okay? So, dahil ito sa testimony ng isang tao na si Francisco Zaldua, the only witness that they had, that the leaders of the Cavite Mutiny were the Filipino priests, and without due process, ito na, si Governor General Rafael Izquierdo ang nagpapatay dun sa tatlong paring martyr. So, naging eye-opener siya sa mga Pilipino that all people could experience the injustice of the Spaniards, even the workers of the church. Okay? So, ang nangyari dito, of course, it awakened the nationalistic spirits of the Creoles and sought reform from the Spanish colonial government in the Philippines. Okay? As they say, na the Cavite Mutiny was the beginning of the birth of Philippine nationalism. Kasi sunod-sunod na yung events na nangyari actually. Nangyari Cavite Mutiny, pinapatay yung Gomburza, and then nagkaroon ng Philippine Revolution. Si Rizal ay 10 years old pa lamang nung napatay ang Gomburza. Dahil yung kuya niya na si Pasiano ay close kay Father Burgos. Now let's proceed to the last factor that led to the rise of Philippine nationalism. We have the rise of the Creoles. So itong mga Creoles, ito yung mga may lahi. It's either half Filipino, half Chinese, or half Filipino, half Spanish. So the Creoles was considered as the third class in the Philippine society during the Spanish era. They were the result of the intermarriage of the natives, Spaniards, and Chinese. Their education gave them the idea about the good government, equality, and right of the people to overthrow the government. The Creoles used propaganda to encourage the Filipino people to seek reform in the government, and they succeeded in awakening the Indios or the masses